All right, thank you. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Ventnor Town Council meeting on the 13th of December 2021. Very nice to see you all. First item on the agenda is apologies for absence.
Just from Councillor Steve Cooper, who's in quarantine, as you know.
Yeah, as I know. All right, thank you very much. Hopefully, I just note now, we will be meeting again in early next year. We'll see. Perhaps we'll be going virtual. It's certainly on the cards, but fingers crossed this won't be the last of our face-to-face meetings. Item number 2, declarations of interest. Anybody?
I think maybe, Chair, whether it does or not, I don't know, but I think it's best to mention it. Because of my involvement with the Anxiety Cafe, then I think I better not comment on this item on the agenda about the stuffing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Noted for them. Okay. In that case, item number 3, minutes of the previous meeting. As you'll see, we have a Town Council meeting and a Planning Committee meeting. Councillor Bond?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just on the minute of the council meeting for the last item, the confidential item on the new website, the wording that we should put in the minutes should be the wording that I read out at the meeting, which is the same wording that I emailed to the clerk on the 2nd of November and again on the 1st of December. I won't read it out as it's a confidential item, even though I don't think the minute itself is confidential. But if we could agree to use the wording that I read out at the meeting, which includes the timescale, that's the main difference between that and what we have here.
Can I just clarify with Councillor Bond that that's the phrase that refers to the timescale?
It's the email I sent you on the 1st of December that refers to a timescale with suitably flexible timescale, but a timescale nevertheless. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, no problem at all. Do we have any other comments on either the minutes of the last meeting or planning? Planning committees for information only, of course. Then taken with just that one suggestion. Thank you. Item number 4, finance reports. Over to you, please, David.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Balances at the 30th of November. Our two accounts combined, 273,479, and the accounts have been reconciled to that date. During November, we paid out a total of 49,840, with 8,401 coming from the Salisbury Gardens account. I noted for your information, in case you thought we got elections free of charge, the payments include the Isle of Wight Council's recharge of 2,234 for the May elections. So they're a bit behind with their billing, but anyway, all is straight now. Receipts during November total 10,591, with 4,881 of that coming from Salisbury Gardens rents. The list of payments and receipts is now attached, thanks to Alison's remedial work, and is attached to this report. Payments in the period were 8,344 over budget, and receipts over the month were 1,999 above budget. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, David. So, members, do we have any comments or questions about the finance report?
Chair, I think on just on the bottom, towards the bottom where we've got the project section, we've got quite significant overspends now on both strategic development and community development. It might be worth just reminding ourselves what the reasons for those are.
The overspending in the Economic Development Councillor was the result of moving, I think your suggestion, the settlement figure from miscellaneous to where it belongs, the salary figure, and that was a total of something in excess of £5,000. So I think that brings it back into line.
We're 9,000 over, aren't we, I think?
Yes, and that's likely to continue. As you will know from the staffing committee, we have employed our business development officer on 35 hours a week, not 32 as the previous post was.
I just wonder whether it would be easier for us during the year if when we agree changes like that, we actually change the budget at the same time rather than just running an overspend through to the end of the year. It's just a thought, but I mean, if we agree to make someone full time and recruit someone to it, it would be sensible to put the budget in at the same time, wouldn't it?
It's arguably a bit academic, but
yeah,
but I would defer that sort of decision to those who keep books professionally.
I think it's better to see the consequences of what we do, Chair.
Okay. And then the community development one is 5,000 over as well.
Yes, there's some confusion about where that belongs, but as between the youth work and the community development work, that we still haven't finally, well, I haven't finally resolved yet, but I hope to do so by next month.
I see the line below.
Yes,
we have the significant underspend,
yeah,
so
right.
so that's still too bad. So
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ian.
It was good to have questions on the finance report. Thank you, Bob. Thank you.
Any others? Then I'm looking for a proposer. Proposed by Councillor Bond, seconded by Councillor Jeffries. Okay, item number 5, nice easy one. Town Council meetings 2022. I hope these don't interfere with anybody's birthday or such other such things.
Valentine's Day, Chair.
Oh yeah, okay. That's a bit. Valentine's Day. So I'll be in a spot of trouble there.
Well, you can change it. It's not set in stone.
Well, you'll be here together, won't you? You can have a romantic meeting in February.
I'd just like to record the reason for the change if you go ahead with it.
Does anybody see any issue with these dates we have before us? And would anybody like to? Does anybody have any substantive reasons to make any suggested changes? No? Well, in that case, look for a proposer and seconder to agree the schedule for next year.
I propose that because you get into trouble. So
Thank you. Okay, item number 6, social media policy. So, it's as we are all very much aware now, social media, it's not going away, is it? And it's a very powerful force in society. I mean, at the moment, Ventnor Town Council doesn't use social media a great deal. I have seen the occasional thing, but not a great deal. But that may well change as we go forward into the future. So it is important that we start to develop a policy here. Other councillors, should be aware that it's quite a normal thing now. If you pop in social media policy, parish council into Google, you get many results. So it's a very, very normal part of the suite of policies that councils have. Okay, and I'd like to open up for a conversation, please. Councillor Bond?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I mean, I certainly agree we should have a policy, and there's clearly been some good work gone into drafting this. As I discussed, I think with a number of members by email, I do think it would be wise if we took a month for members to read it and respond in more detail, because it is a completely new policy area for us that affects members considerably, and we haven't had that long to look at it. And reading it through, what concerned me was that the situation with employees and the situation with councillors isn't really differentiated in the report. We've tried to write one policy that covers both, whereas of course employees are using taxpayer-funded equipment and being paid by the taxpayers for their time. And when they're at work, we can be quite restrictive about what is done and not done. Whereas conversely, employees, when they're at home, are pretty free to do what they like, provided they don't break the law or criticise the council. Members are in a very different position. We're using our own equipment in our own time. We're not being paid by the council. So there's no contractual rights that the council has to tell us what we can and can't do on our computers. But we are covered by the Code of Conduct. And we're covered by the Code of Conduct both when we're on council business and when we're on private business, and therefore if we did something that brought the council into disrepute, that would be an offence against the Code of Conduct even if we were at home. Whereas if an employee did the same unpleasant posting, there'd be no sanction that this council could apply to that employee unless the subject matter involved the council. So employees and councillors are actually in a different position. And the restrictions that cover the employees and the restrictions that cover councillors and the sanctions that you can apply to an employee and the sanctions that you can apply to a councillor are different. And reading this, I didn't feel that came out of this very clearly. I mean, we've tried to write something that covers both. And in fact, in a couple of places, it actually says this policy applies to all employees of Ventnor Town Council, including councillors. Well, we're not employees, so that isn't right. So I think it would be helpful if members took the time to read through this, because we are agreeing a policy that effectively determines what we do away from the council as well as on council business. And then if we come back to it in January, hopefully members would have had a chance to comment in more detail.
Thank you. Thank you, Ian. Does any other members have something to say on this policy?
Yes, I would have preferred it to be a councillor specific document which was bolted on to our codes of conduct, because I think the two things sit together. I mean, I was a bit confused when I saw the staff being included in there, because I know that there are certain parallels, but it's distinctly different. I mean, social media is a very powerful force for good and for evil. That's the problem. And I notice we mustn't clarify or correct any incorrect statements or views. Well, that basically means argument in terms of social media. I mean, you've got to be very careful. If something comes out of this council and we use the social media supposedly safely, we could easily enter into an arguing situation, which I don't think we ought to be considering even. So I think it cuts the members' powers down considerably, because they have to be very, very careful. James Toogood and myself know just how easily it is to fall foul of the general public when you're doing your best and working in goodwill. So it's very difficult. So I would prefer to see one which was specific to councillors as a bolt-on to the councillors' code of conduct. Although it's all good stuff, if it has to stand as it is, it's acceptable. But I would make it clearer for us, I think, if it was for us only.
Thank you, Brian. Yes, so now you're right about clarifying and correcting any unclear or incorrect statements or views. I mean, you could stay up all night, couldn't you?
Yeah, that's right.
On the internet doing that. So let's not go down that route. Any other members?
I just want to comment. It was, I thought, a very useful document. To me, it set out rules of engagement and reminded me of our responsibilities. That is included within it as well. Perhaps listening to the two comments so far, it might be beneficial to have more emphasis given for councillor considerations that we need to be aware of, because the whole lot's in together. But as Brian said, it's a useful document. I'd be happy to go along with it as it is, but if it could have those two roles separated further, it might be even clearer.
Okay, thanks, Bill. Yeah, I mean, I'm quite in agreement. Having read through it, it did highlight a number of things that were otherwise that seemed quite obvious once you've read them, but weren't necessarily at the front of my mind.
Can we not just refer to our code of conduct in several delicate places here? Can we just cross-reference?
It already does.
But not in all places, is it? What do you think is enough?
It's more that it doesn't make the distinction. I mean, to give you an example, if we look at the next item, Ventnor Park trees. If someone was of the view that spending that money on the trees was a waste of money and the council should have done something different, as councillors, we'd be perfectly entitled to post that on social media because we have a representative role, and if we believe that that's the wrong thing for our residents, we're entitled to do that, provided we're not offensive about the council and provided what we say is accurate. Whereas an employee of the council, governed by line management command, if they went home and said Ventnor's wasting a lot of money on trees, that would be a serious matter. Whereas conversely, if an employee went home and posted something that most people would say was offensive, but they did it on their own computer in their own time, that's none of our business. Whereas if a councillor posted something that was offensive, arguably we breached the Nolan principles of treating people with respect. So there's two examples of how employees, and we can do some things that employees can't, and employers can do some things that we can't. And that's what I think we need to bring out of the document, just to be clear.
Thank you.
Absolutely, I'm just agreeing with that. I think that's a very good analogy, so I think it helps to understand it.
Okay. And you'll know a little bit from the email traffic, this is one thing that I picked up on quite quickly, was the absence of that delineation between the two.
Should we not get a lawyer or a solicitor to run his eye over it to check that we're not hanging ourselves in several places?
No, this is standard stuff.
Okay.
It really is standard stuff. We take the point about the proposed amendments, but there's no risk in the policy itself. The risk is councillors acting outside of the policy, if there is one. And although the Mayor said that engagement is recent, I'm aware that 3 members of this council have contributed to what I would call social media already. But having said that, no problem with coming back in January.
Well, I'll be looking for a proposal, either for the recommendation we have in front of us or an alternative proposal.
Well, I think it's an amendment, Chair, and I think I propose that we defer this for a month and allow members to send their comments to the officer in advance of the next meeting.
Okay.
Just to say, there is lots of good stuff in here, and it's not a question of rewriting it completely. I just think it does need splitting out into a section for councillors and a section for employees.
Okay, do we have a seconder for that?
I'll second that, please.
Okay. And then show of hands on that amendment. Okay.
Thank you.
Item number 7, we do not have in front of us. There's no paper for this item, but I've been informed by the clerk that Councillor Phil Warren has an update for us on the Time and Tide project. So please.
Yeah, this is following on from a meeting Saturday just gone at lunchtime. The national coordinator, Peter Kingold, came down to Ventnor, and there were 2 members of the Venture South board were present at the meeting, and also Teresa Grimaldi, who's the other champion for Ventnor. And what I really wanted to do was follow on from what we agreed at our last meeting, where it was agreed to adopt a Time and Tide valve, become its legal owner, subject to agreement on finer details for the project, and these essentially were financial. What came out from the meeting was that we have an identified lead, that would be Virgil Philpott, who's also involved with the board of Venture South. He's based at Carisbrooke, he's the museum manager there. The target date was suggested as April, is now put back to end of July. Thought it was more realistic. There are grant funding bids in from the Arts Council, ACE, and also English Heritage. Funds are going to be raised for submission for grants, and these preliminary have been well received. Will cover design of marine fixing, the support structure, and also the mechanics of the bell placement, and that was a quite considerable sum in the total figure. So what we were able to do at the meeting was unpick all charges, how they go, all the costs, how they be met. So there will be fundraising through major grants to cover all of those. The planning application has now been submitted. That was something I was pushing for, and I appreciate the meeting, if all else failed, then Ventnor Town Council, if we were sufficiently informed, could have put our name on the application. Would have taken a lot longer, but now it's gone forward anyway, so I was able to achieve that much before the meeting. To be gifted to Ventnor Town Council will be two items, two costs. £1,500 for legal costs for the lease that needs to be organised with Isle of Wight Council for us to have the bell on site where its proposed location is, and also a sum of £5,000 which will cover 10 years for maintenance and also insurance costs. And this is based on previous experience with the 7 bells already installed. Ventnor Town Council will be gifted as part of the fundraising a sum of £5,000 for 10 years maintenance and insurance. So that pretty much meets all the outstanding costs. The bids will be substantially strengthened because Ventnor Town Council has expressed support initially from the previous meeting. There is one outstanding cost, which is for the Marine Management Organisation licence application, MMO application, for £1,400. And I was going to bring that to tonight's council meeting, asking could we okay payment of that sum. That's the only cost implication is £1,400. I was also asked benefits. Well, an email has not gone out, but there was a Zoom meeting last week for all the Bell communities around Britain, existing ones. I said to them, after this council meeting, get back to them and ask for feedback on substantive benefits to their local communities. But just to give a flavour, after our meeting concluded, I took Peter Wingold up to the Exchange to meet with Jack Whitewood. And I wasn't involved in these discussions. I need feedback from these subsequently. Proposing a performance piece that will be put on hopefully around about the time of Fringe, that will involve young people of Ventnor as well. So they'll learn performance skills, may even get involved with touring, who knows, because this performance piece will go around to the various Bell sites in Britain as well. Other things will involve community involvement, shoreline and strand activity, beach school, citizen science, sea shanty, can time with the sea shanty event. There's already an event at the Spyglass. Something at the Fringe, become part of a co-tidal film that all is being put together for all the Bell sites. So there's a lot in the planning for how Ventnor becomes more integrated with the national project. It does raise our profile, it will attract visitors, so it brings commerce into Ventnor. More detail of that to follow, but essentially what I was doing tonight was just confirming that we have no massive costs for the design of the support structure, the construction of it, the craneage and the installation. That will all be taken care of by the grants that have been applied for and other fundraising. And all I'm asking for tonight, at some stage, and I haven't got a date for this, is £1,400, but it would be in over the next few months for the MMO application submission. That's the cost. I think it would show, it would cement firm intent that the Town Council is involved in this project. So that's my verbal feedback. Sorry, I couldn't get it to you literally. The meeting was midday on Friday. I'm losing track now. Midday on Saturday. Saturday was quite a day. In the morning involved, in the evening involved, and this was segged into the middle of a busy Saturday. So in my mind, very positive, and the organisation has now been streamlined, and there is one person I can go to who can drive it forward as well. So I'm a lot more relaxed about having a key link person that I can work with.
Okay, thank you very much. And that's Virgil Philippot, you said?
Philippot.
Yeah, okay, super. Yeah, I understand.
I think he's probably known to the letters.
The name rings well, yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for all the work up until this point. And I think that members will be quite relieved to have the sum of money that's down on paper now, having been in a very loose situation previously with somewhere between 5,000 and 25,000 not really not being sure, so 1,400 looked good. Other members?
Well, just on the same sort of similar point, Chair, really, when we last had a report, it sounded like they had a big fundraising mountain to climb, and it now sounds like they've been quite successful. Are you able to say a little bit more about how they've pulled off this spectacular
Well, they
achievement?
haven't had the grants awarded as yet. They're just pushing ahead with the submission.
So it's grant funding that
It
they're
would be
after.
grant funding,
Okay,
yeah, but they're very confident about the work.
that's good.
So is a total amount of 7,900 over a period of time then? BTC qualifying.
All we're being asked for now is the application fee for the NMO licence.
Yeah,
I think the 5,000 and the 1,500
Yeah.
for
Oh, right.
the 10 years maintenance and,
Yeah.
the legal fees,
Absolutely.
that's being gifted to the council.
I beg your pardon.
Sure,
Sorry,
I
I
understand.
read that completely wrong.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's 10 years. The 5,000 will cover 10 years for maintenance and insurance. And that's a cost based on experience with previous
Really good
installations.
So in a sense, we're committing council in 10 years' time to keep that cost going, but then that's actually quite a big deal if you compare with how it might have been.
Good. Okay, any other members like to comment on this item? Then we're looking for a proposal. Do you have a few words for us, Phil?
I've said enough on it, I think really. Just proposal that
We confirm that we
confirm acceptance. It's really based on what was proposed at the last meeting. It isn't really where it's agreed in principle. Can we now finally agree to adopt the bill? And secondly, provide the £1,400 for the MMO licence application fee.
proposer and look for a second.
I'll second that, please.
Okay, show of hands on that, please. Thank you all very much.
Okay, so what I will do now is report back to both the national organiser and Venture South, register our intent and keep pushing to make sure it happens.
Yeah, it'd be wonderful if it happens at the front end of the season, not the back end. That's really good. So thank you very much. Okay, item number 8, Ventnor Park trees. Purpose of this report is to consider a quotation for work to protect some of the trees in Ventnor Park. As members are aware, we do need to get some tree work done there, and twice before, if I'm not mistaken, this item has been for the council. As I understand, there is a slight change to the quotation because of additional works that are required. And if I'm not mistaken, there's an additional aspect to this report that we have in front of us, and that is to do with the chronology of the trees and lease from the Isle of Wight Council, suggesting that perhaps we are not on the hook for these costs, and they could be because of the timing.
Yes, the point I made in the Carlton report is that the problems that this quotation would cure, this treatment would provide, was identified in the survey that Councillors Lucas and Toogood carried out of the trees as part of our preparation for taking on the lease. And as you can see, that was dated as the document is, that they recorded with pictures, is back some months before the lease was agreed by the council. I think there is therefore an argument that some, if not all, of these costs might be the liability of the Isle of Wight Council.
Thank you very much for the explanation. Okay, do the members have any comments on this?
No, the reason the cost has gone up since Councillor Lucas and myself done some inspection work on it. Councillor Lucas come up with an idea, it's a good idea. I asked 3 contractors to price it up. One didn't reply, one done a site visit and never replied, and then Dixie done a site visit and gave us a quotation going back September for 5/8 for it. Since then, Nigel and myself had a meeting with the tree officer, who was a planning tree officer, Jerry Willis, who's come up with some amazing ideas. He understands trees better than anyone really. And we then had another meeting with Dixie, and Dixie come up with a second quotation for £6,580, which is £780 above the original quotation. But there's been a lot of work put into this, and a lot of meetings to get this result really. And the ideal chap is the planning officer, because he knows now what's got to be done. He's advised of what's going to be done. So Nigel and Alison's working on an application to send to him. So we're hoping to get it pat on the head very quickly. The thing is, really, we've got to be careful because of the bird nesting season. So we can't let this drag on too long. We need to push it along a bit, really. And also, Richard Dixie needs to order the plants up under the trees because they're quite special plants. So we don't really want to drag on with the council for too many months. It needs to be pushed forward really quite heavily.
Yeah, so if I'm not mistaken, the shrubs are an addition to the previous quotation.
They are, yeah.
I mean,
That
115 shrubs is no small amount.
No, it's not, and that is advised by Jerry Willis, the tree officer.
Okay, that's his recommendation.
Yeah,
okay.
his recommendation.
Well, we know he knows his stuff.
Yeah,
so.
very much sure he does, yes.
Good, yeah, no, that's an opportunity there to be something really, really fantastic.
Yeah,
okay.
definitely.
Yeah, I feel a bit sore about this because when we took the lease off of the Isle of Wight Council for the park, we had an extensive sort of walk round with the tree guy, and he identified one that had to be felled, and that was near the footpath, and he arranged for that to be cut down. But he didn't make any comment at all about the health of these trees. And now we're faced with 6,500 of cost, which we didn't know about. We didn't expect that as a liability at all. I mean, if this goes on, we are sort of very vulnerable because we have the liability for the trees, and then the Isle of Wight Council come and say do something expensive with them, and it can't go on because I mean, you know, the park itself is not a money maker for us. It's a community asset, and to sustain these sort of costs in the first year is outrageous. So I think we ought to go back to them and ask them for a major contribution because they did not identify, as experts, we aren't the experts in trees, they were, they didn't identify this work as being necessary.
I'll back you there, Councillor Lucas. They never mentioned it, never even spoke about it, never even looked at the trees. We had a site meeting about something completely different, didn't we?
I mean, they're specimen trees, they've got to be protected. I mean, there's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
But it's a question of who picks the tab up, and I don't think it ought to be us in the first year, certainly.
And when myself and Nigel met the tree plan officer, he was amazed at the type of trees we had there. He knew where they come from all over the world. Yeah. So they do appreciate what we got there. But I remember when we took this lease on, you clearly said that we have a massive liability to these trees.
Yeah, we knew it was a risk. Yeah. I mean, if it's a sycamore, you know, it's quite a cheap thing. But if you have a classic tree like the one that's got all the multi branches on it, it's very expensive. Yeah.
Which is pretty.
So I would like the clerk to write a begging letter, please, to the Isle of Wight Council.
Yes, as the report says, the inspection that the two councillors referred to was in December 2020, and we still have in our records what I've described as a set of images, which has the heading written on the relevant sheet, because there are a number of sheets, some trees requiring surgery and crowning. And which is exactly where we are now. So I think
well, surgery is cheaper, much cheaper than what we're doing on the ground. I mean, re-nourishing the trees over a long term is a very expensive project. Yeah. You probably spend £400 per tree on doing a bit of surgery, but you wouldn't. What we're faced with is a lot more.
Yes, it is very much so.
My point is only that this was identified as an issue before the lease was signed, so I think the case is as stated that the Isle of Wight Council should make what you call, councillor, a substantial contribution. Yeah. So with your support, we'll take it up with them.
Definitely.
I mean, I do note from the reports here that the bulk of the expense is for what appears to be more sort of one-off works, whereas the actual tree work itself only comes to £1,240. I would imagine that will be a fairly regular cost, whereas the others will hopefully not recur, certainly not on an annual basis, of course. Okay, well, we have a recommendation before us. The Town Council has recommended to agree that treatment is necessary and the quotation appropriate, and to authorise the clerk to initiate discussions with the Isle of Wight Council on the respective responsibility for costs of it. Do I have a proposal?
Oh, sorry, got this, yeah.
Proposed by Deputy Mayor and a seconder. Councillor Watkins. Show of hands, please. Thank you very much. Where are we? Item number 9. Central car park spaces, heads of terms. The purpose of this report is to ask members to agree the now provided heads of terms for the lease of the 4 car park spaces required for the new public toilets. Okay. Members, I'm sure, I know from experience that more than one of you has some experience with heads of terms and leases. I look forward to see if you identified any peculiarities within this one.
I'm pleased to see that our contribution only goes up by RPI, because there was some talk about it going up in accordance with the car parking charges. Well, Isle of Wight Council seem to be able to exceed the RPI in their parking charge increases, so that's welcome.
Do we know what the projected income would be from the toilets to offset any of
The estimate, sorry,
Yeah, no, certainly.
the estimate we had from a previous supplier of toilets that we talked with was 4,000 a year.
And maybe now is an opportune time to mention that in front of us here we have the cost of £2,950, and the cost of the loan for the toilet is going to be
£2,570 twice a year.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. For the context.
It's actually less than the loan we had back in 2015. Because the interest rate is lower.
With that, I mean, we've got to be a bit careful. I know David's worked it out very carefully, but we mustn't forget that to put the coinage and card system in, it actually added over £9,000 to the 3 doors. We've got to bear it in mind when we talk to these figures. It's not a straight comeback, of course we think it is.
Understood. Yeah.
Thank you.
So the payment systems for the doors, which obviously bulletproof, extremely tough doors, are £9,000. Yeah?
No, the doors are more than that. The doors come out nearly 12.
Yeah.
But the actual additional £9,000 to do the system.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, it's very complicated.
It includes the contactless.
Yes, yeah, and the company have been to the island and checked the signal is strong enough in the car park to keep it working. Yeah. But that's when we want someone's locked in. Really. But yeah,
in or out, neither is ideal.
Well, it doesn't matter really, does it? But it has been checked. But it is a very bad point that it does add 9,000 to the cost of the doors. Okay. So we've got to sort of take that in when we do our figures, please. Thank you.
Okay. Sticking with the specifics of the item in front of us, does anybody have any comments on the heads of terms for the lease for these car parking spaces?
The only comment I would have, there's not a plan with it, so we've had a lot of trouble in them realising the total area, don't we?
It's sorted that, yeah.
It's all sorted, the plan, yeah, because they sent it to us several times, the wrong measurement, didn't they?
Sorted.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so the planned area includes the bollards and so on and so forth.
Total area.
The bollard cost.
Yeah, they had the area of the toilets, which obviously was incorrect, but it includes the actual depth measurements of the parking bays. It's actually spot on, with 50 mil. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, well, in that case, I will look for a proposer and a seconder for this item. Moved by Councillor Jeffries.
Oh, I second it. No one else is. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. David, Town Clerk's report.
Well, I needed to take you along. The new website comes top of the list because work is underway with the working group and with Nigel leading on the development with Donkey Solutions Limited. The first connections are very positive, and the working group had one meeting since we started work with them, and we'll have another one before Christmas. The South White Parishes Health and Wellbeing Forum goes from one good thing to another, with yet another meeting taking place. This time at Bedford Methodist Church with some good guest speakers. And what can I say about the list of fishing? I'm sure the Deputy Mayor can say something about the fishing chair.
Well, we were sort of getting ready to go, and I have to tell you, it was quite emotional because what happened was, unbeknown to me, St Catherine's School saw it on Ventnor notice board and turned up with 6 of their pupils, and they really did do an excellent job and they learnt a lot. But at the end of it, one of the pupils said, he's 16 years of age, but I don't know what his mental age is, but he turned around and he said, I don't understand why people throw their dirt on the ground. And he went back to the school and they sort of actually talked it through and they learned a lot about rubbish. So, and they want to be involved next time. So it's really good, a really good connection. And we had a lot more local volunteers as well. So we had quite a few people actually from this road, and there was like a grandfather with a child as well. So it was all ages, and now we have plenty of equipment. So our next one is in January. If anybody feels they want to come, we have plenty of letter pickers. Never one to miss out on a. But it was an excellent morning, and the weather wasn't bad either, was it?
Fingers crossed it'll be good in January.
Yes. So thank you. It was very successful and very necessary, and we covered a much bigger area. We did all around the front of the building here and all down the seafront, and actually went a little way along to Bond Church. So we did a biggish area, and I think we got
all the car parks.
And the car parks were atrocious. Yes, yeah, it was a very, very good. More rubbish than the time before. Yes. So I guess in January we'll exceed it again.
Well, of course, the more you collect, so eventually you get down to needing a dustpan and brush, don't you, for the tiny bit.
That can be arranged as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Item 4 records the excellent work of Alison in ensuring the arrangements for Remembrance Sunday and the Warm Royal celebrations went very well again. I did go to the meeting with Bob Seeley, but after 2 minutes he said he had to go because the business in the house was urgent. He apologised and vanished from our screen, so we gave up and meet again in January.
Probably had a party to go to.
Probably.
Only half the sausage.
The working groups meetings are listed there for information. The white computers have completed this major upgrade and done a first-class job, which is just as well because I don't know about anybody else, but this confused me totally, and they pestered me regularly, as they have my colleagues, and thanks to Nigel for being the link for that and ensuring that this all works well. So we're now in the cloud and have updated the software. Salter Gardens, well, you know about this, of course. Councillor Toogood is still keeping a close eye on that, along with Nigel. And progress, Jim, everything?
Well, I did have a discussion this morning with Dave Norwood. He's promised me it's on the list to be done. It will be done before Christmas. It's all watertight. We've got some slating to do up there. He couldn't let us have a painter to paint the fascia board. I managed to get the painter. He promised me to get it before Christmas, obviously with Ventnor, who's done the railings for us, or the safety railings upstairs, and he was doing the main job when it comes to decoration throughout, really. So it's in hand, but it is a struggle because we got nasty weather against it. It blows like anything up there, and there's not much staffing around. Everyone's so busy, and so it's plodding on, one would say, really. That's all we can do, really.
So it's hard to get staff, let alone to work up the top of the scaffold in the howling wind.
And it's extra work which no one expected.
Yeah.
So it is a problem. If I happen to short it, it will be done before it closes down by both the painter and the roofer. Yeah.
Thank you.
We have also, sorry, interfere again, we have finished our safety screen upstairs. Have you seen it, Brian?
Yeah, it's very
Looks
smart.
very smart, doesn't it?
Yeah, smart job.
It's got to be touched up. The paint will obviously be damaged here when we've done the fixing, but once again, the painter can do that when he does the main work by and by. They try and probably break into the new year, but it is.
For members' information, Chair, this is a safe route to the roof from inside the building, which we've never had. We've had access up a ladder through a trapdoor,
Yeah, very dangerous.
and the fact that we've not had an accident we're very grateful for, because it was a one that waiting to happen, and we now have safe access. And approved by our health and safety officer, I believe. So.
And also we built it on budget, which is good, really, because there wasn't unknown factors there, really.
I recall that.
That's good. So yeah, you're coming on budget. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, David. And let me take the opportunity to thank the staff. Thank you, Nigel. Thank you, Alison. Super work, as always. Okay, item number 11 is the exclusion of public and press. In view of the confidential nature of the following item, it was resolved under the Public Bodies Admissions to Meetings 1960 Act to exclude the public and press whilst the next item is under discussion, as it is of a confidential nature. That does have to be agreed by the council, so I will require a proposer and a seconder for that. 31 and
Second, yeah. Thank you.
And show of hands.